is too easy.
Here's a guy who became a superhero and was given these fantastic powers, and he actually liked being a superhero.
I wonder if he knows who I am.
Plastic Man gives you lots of opportunities to do silly, fun, broad humor that's not painful.
He can spring, he can stretch, and he can even dance.
Plastic Man kind of was Bugs Bunny in a red leotard.
Well, I wasn't sure about the color anyway.
If Looney Tunes had a superhero, it would be Plastic Man.
It wasn't even just tongue-in-cheek, it's like tongue lodged down the throat.
Now, could you get some ice cubes to harden me up?
Sure, Plas.
What I liked about Plastic Man was his versatility.
He didn't punch people out. He was funny, he was clever, he popped up in unusual places.
Hi there. I'm very low in calories.
The story starts off with Patrick Eel O'Brien, and he's a thief, and he's pretty good at it, and he's also a bit of a con artist. And he's trying to rob a chemical plant.
And he was shot, and a vat of acid fell on his wound.
I don't know what kind of acid it was, but apparently it's the kind that turns you into rubber.
He escapes, winds up in a monastery.
The entire story was kind of all about redemption and pulling yourself up and kind of getting a second shot at life.
He has this moment where he just decides that he's been on the wrong side, that he's gonna not be a bad guy anymore.
Plastic Man was the only one that started out bad and decided to change and become good.
This is really part of the uniqueness of this strip.
Because usually a hero starts out, someone does something wrong to them, and then they get their powers, and then that's what motivates them to fight for justice.
But when Plastic Man came out, I mean, it kind of like turned the notion of the square-jawed, stoic superhero, kind of turned it on its side.
But Plastic Man was this unique invention because he could do anything and change shape, and it was something that could only exist on a comic book page at the time.
The other guys just seemed to use their powers to stretch and turn into a barrier for criminals or to reach something high. Plastic Man turned into things. That was really the big difference.
Plastic Man was created by a man named Jack Cole, who was a true original in comics.
Jack Cole was very much a self-made man. When he was 15, he learned about an art teaching course, and he wanted to take it. His parents said no, they didn't have the money. So he just saved up his allowance and lunch money, sent out, and took it correspondence over the mail, learning how to become a cartoonist.
Plastic Man first appeared on the scene. I mean, he literally was a circus freak turned superhero.
Police Comics 1 introduced Plastic Man along with the Human Bomb and Phantom Lady, and it just immediately was a strip that showed a sort of wacky, cartoony feel that usually you only saw in the funnies.
What Jack Cole was able to do is he had a way of laying out a page with this kind of kinetic energy, and he actually used Plastic Man himself with his bright red leotards to kind of direct the eye from panel to panel.
I mean, he was definitely not only stretching the character, but he was stretching really the boundaries of what you can do in a comic book.
I think the main difference with Jack Cole is I think he was a humorist first. Even though he dealt with the superhero genre, a lot of the fun in reading his comic books was finding out where is Plastic Man hidden in the panel.
It was really kind of limitless. It's kind of like a genie. He could do anything. The only limitations he had were to extreme heat and cold.
And Jack Cole himself said, you know, if you can dream it, you can draw it.
Of course, he would be drawn with the colors of his costume, the red and the stripes, the yellow and black stripes. And so we knew when we'd watch the strip or see the cartoons that if there was something in the room that was colored that way, that was really Plastic Man in disguise.
This predates Mad Magazine, where you could kind of follow each panel and you'd pick out like, oh, there he is.
The tone of the Plastic Man comic book back in the 40s was kind of different than the other comic books of its ilk.
Nobody had really successfully combined the humor and superhero genres.
But Plastic Man was unique in that it was basically a superhero humor / crime book.
Around 1956, a lot of comic book companies were going out of business. There was a horror comic scare. Newsstands were not carrying comic books. A lot of publishers went under, including a company called Quality Comics, which had been publishing Plastic Man since its inception. DC Comics, which had been distributing Quality Comics, acquired the rights to 3 of their titles, Black Hawk, GI Combat, and Plastic Man.
After the character was acquired by DC Comics, he wasn't used for a while. Part of it was that Julius Schwartz didn't realize that they'd acquired the copyright to Plastic Man.
Plastic Man's transition from Quality Comics into DC Comics, it was rough. I mean, by that time, Jack Cole left right after 1950s were his last Plastic Man stories, which in my opinion were the best.
They had a series called Dial H for Hero. It's about a little boy who finds this telephone dial, and whenever he would make a little dial, he would turn into a superhero. In this one particular issue in '66, he does the dial and he actually turns into Plastic Man. And that was the first use of Plastic Man by DC Comics.
Thanks. I needed that.
You can't really hurt him. He can get hit really hard by whatever, an anvil, and it will just bounce back like a trampoline.
He could turn into anything. He was perfect for animation.
I was first introduced to Plastic Man when I went over to Ruiz Spears as an animator and we started working on the Plastic Man series.
The Plastic Man cartoon show basically had the premise of Plastic Man working for the government. He was a fully deputized official. This was kind of like the comic books where he'd worked with the FBI, but here he was almost like a superhero with James Bond. They gave him a plane. He was in constant video contact with the chief. He was sent on missions all around the world.
They gave Plastic Man an entourage of people.
Penny and a sidekick, Hula Hula, who was very much like Lou Costello in personality and voice.
Falling coconuts, we're gonna hit any second.
They had a list at the time of ethnicities that were not yet represented on Saturday morning, and they said pick one and incorporate it into the show. Originally they named him Coconut, and then someone pointed out that this is apparently an ethnic slur in some circles, so he changed to Hula Hula, and they gave him the gimmick of always having bad luck.
What I remember the show that was really the coolest thing for me that I'd never seen in a show before was that it began with a comic book from the pages of DC Comics.
Comes the world's newest and greatest superhero, Plastic Man.
The show was really just a fresh take on Plastic Man. The cartoon had these weird villains such as the Weed, who was just a walking plant.
It was troubling for some of us who had background in comic books that Plastic Man was in a new context. We heard about Plastic Man and we wanted to do Jack Cole style stories. The network didn't want that. The network wanted a new format. They wanted him to have a sidekick. They wanted him to have a strong female character in the strip.
Penny was probably there just to let everyone know that this guy who's in a red leotard actually likes girls. So at least that's my thinking on that one.
Lance, I know you can handle your villains, but how are you at handling a woman?
Oh, I can handle a woman.
Currently, I think Plastic Man is being treated semi-straight, but also still for humor. They're making him a lot more complicated as far as backstory and making a more textured character to kind of fit in with what's going on in comics currently.
Everybody loves the character so much that they kind of want to take their own take on it and play with it.
Tom Kenny and myself, who's the voice of SpongeBob, we came about wanting to do a Plastic Man pilot.
Whenever you do a pilot episode, it's really with the intent of creating hopefully a series or a movie or a direct-to-video or something. What you want to do is develop a style for it. Artistically, you want to develop a voice for it, and then you hopefully can build something from that.
We were very keen on concentrating on that thing that set Plastic Man apart from all the other heroes. He used to be on the other side. He's a bad guy. He had a near-death experience.
And they came up with a really cool thing.
Warner Brothers said, okay, but if he's going to be a former criminal, you have to show him atoning for his past.
He's basically on parole.
We took the FBI chief from the Jack Cole comics and kind of morphed him into this character, Archie Bronson, that's a tough parole officer.
He's basically fulfilling his duties to society. And so his missions are based on stuff that he had been involved with as a criminal.
I don't know why it didn't get picked up. I actually thought it was pretty good, and the few people that we did screen it for actually liked it quite a lot. And so sometimes there's financial decisions that are made. Sometimes it's really about the timing.
When Kyle Baker tackled the character recently, he also tried to go back to a more Jack Cole thing. Woozy Winks came back as this like bizarrely humored character with just his own strange logic.
Kyle's a brilliant cartoonist, and one of the few guys who's gotten his hands on the character who could match Jack Cole for just being bizarre and thinking strange.
For the new show, Batman the Brave and the Bold, we wanted to dig deeper for characters who Batman hasn't been with.
You've got not only a guy who's extremely serious versus a guy who's just a whack job.
I think if you could eavesdrop on Batman and Plastic Man, you know, Brave and Bold style, their conversation would be Plastic Man telling Batman, dude, you gotta lighten up. I know Gotham City's got a lot of crime. I know Arkham Asylum is full of psychos. I know about the parent thing when you were coming home from the movies. But, you know, you gotta have some fun. You only go around once.
I worked on one sequence where he's stealing stuff while he's moving along, you know. And Batman keeps catching him. He's like, well, what's the problem? I mean, I'm just chipping a little bit.
Plastic Man in our show is having a hard time staying on the straight and narrow. He's still a crooked heart. And basically his journey in the show is to watch him fully evolve into a hero.
Most of the superheroes that were spawned in the first years of comic books in the wake of Superman and Batman didn't make it through the decade of the 40s.
I think the biggest appeal of Plastic Man over the years is he's unapologetically silly, he's unapologetically fun.
That music, it must be hypnotic. It's forcing me to dance. And not very well.
His personality forces you not to take him seriously, makes him timeless.
For me, personally, the reason the characters endured is because of those stories that Jack Cole had produced. Those are the things that'll kind of live on.
The character is amorphous enough, both physically and character-wise, that people want to take a crack at it.
He's got such a strong, quirky visual that, you know, you just look at it and it puts a smile on your face. So you're already on board with that character.
There's something very compelling about Plastic Man. You just look at him and you like him. I don't know what it is about him. The minute I first saw him, I thought, what a neat character.
Just something about the ability to be anything, to be the ultimate shape shifter, trickster. Also the shades. The shades are just cool.